Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I just had to stop and I looked at my phone just now and it's 11:11. So I don't know if you guys believe in that kind of stuff, but I just love to see some correlations and things that happen. I think it's just a kind of a magical number. Anyways, happy 11:11. So I want to just jump right into this. I'm not exactly sure how this podcast is going to go quite yet, but I have a thought in mind that I wanted to bring here as a conversation piece here on the podcast. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, you might be very curious about some of these sticky notes that I have here on my board. I actually was talking to a couple of my clients who are like, what is going on? And I was telling them, I'm making some plans. I'm trying to do some things. And this is how my brain works. I have to get things out onto a piece of paper for me to see things out. I can't just plan with my brain, even on a computer. It's so hard for me to do. And so I let it be messy. And so for you guys on YouTube that are watching this, I'm letting this be messy. You get to see kind of a picture of my brain as I'm making plans to move forward in my business. And I'm super excited about it. But one of the things that I've been contemplating on, especially when it comes to my life and to my kids' life, even to my clients' lives, is we got to stop trying to be happy all of the time. Now, I say that with so much love, but I think this idea that we are supposed to be happy all the time is creating a lot of problems for people. And it's creating a lot of I mean, you hear this toxic positivity that people are talking about too. I'm like, stop it. Like, it's not real. And I want you guys to think about what happy even is. It's an emotion, right? It's an emotion that we can have. Notice what I said, we can have. But emotions, every emotion is short-lived. It's temporary. It does not last. It's not a state of being. It is a short-term 90-second. I think that's usually about the time frame that people talk about an emotion lasting, but emotions last about 90 seconds. And yet we have this idea that has been, and again, I say it because I understand the narrative behind it. So it's been said with a great intention behind it, but there is no possible way for any person to be happy all of the time. And it's just not a way for us to be. We cannot be in that state. We are human beings. Our emotions evolve. They change with time. They change with every moment. And the more we put pressure on ourselves to be happy or to feel happy, I think that creates more resistance towards other things that we are feeling. It is not a problem for us to be feeling negative of any kind, disappointed, frustrated, angry, whatever it is, that is not a problem for us to feel. And actually, the more we are okay with feeling that way, then it actually creates more of the space for us to feel the other side. I love to quote, I brought this up here on the podcast before, but we are studying, the Book of Mormon here in our church this year in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there's that famous scripture, that we talk about with Nephi. It says, men are that they might have joy. They might. It is not oh yeah, you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be happy all of the time. You're supposed to feel joy all of the time. No, it's that you might. And that's, I think, the key that we forget about all of the time is that we're supposed to be happy all of the time. No, we are meant to be human beings feeling everything that we are feeling. I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, and I mean, everybody does. We all struggle with this. And we're like, well, I just don't have the motivation. I think that's another term for happy sometimes, but I don't have the motivation to go to the gym, or I don't have the motivation to go hang out with my friends, or I don't have the motivation to clean up my room. And I told her, I'm like, well, why are we waiting around for motivation? Like, that's not going to happen. Most people don't have, again, just like happiness, they're not motivated all of the time. So if we keep waiting around for these perfect emotions to then experience our life and to live our lives the way that we want to, you're going to be waiting a long time, because motivation is just like happiness. It's a short-lived feeling. I love motivation. I'm trying to generate more of it, because that's the thing that I want you guys to see, is that we generate it from within, but it also is still short-lived. And so if we are relying on these emotions in order for us to have the life that we think we're supposed to have, we're going to be let down. And byproduct of that is that it creates more resistance to what we are actually experiencing, which then makes it even bigger. So if we are not experiencing motivation, I guess you could say a lack of motivation today, and if we're resisting that, we actually compound it. We make it even bigger. Instead of, and this is what I kind of offer to my daughters, I don't feel motivated half the time. I don't want to do things half the time. But if I'm waiting to feel happy and if I'm waiting to feel motivation, I won't live. And so I wake up, like this morning, I went to the gym. I did not want to go to the gym, but I told myself, I was like, you know what? You don't have to want to go. And you can feel, frustrated, or you can feel tired. I think that's the biggest one for me in the mornings is you can feel tired and you can get up and go. And I noticed that sometimes is the biggest thing. I am all about emotion work, you guys. I am. But sometimes we lean so far into emotion work and thinking I should be happy all the time, or I should generate positive emotions. Instead of, I think emotion work, the biggest thing that we need to play around with is just more of the awareness around it, awareness and acceptance. The more aware we are of what we're feeling and the more we accept what we're feeling, then we actually are able to create more of the life that we want to have. I have this picture that I love to draw for my clients, and I think I've done it here on the podcast before, but just for the sake of those that are watching this, you guys can see what we're doing here. So what I've noticed for myself and for a lot of my clients is we often think, and for those of you guys that are listening to this on the podcast, you can kind of hopefully visualize this with me. I'm going to draw me with a circle around it. Okay. I'm kind of in the center of the paper, the center of the board. And oftentimes we're like, well, I just want to feel happy, or I just want to feel motivated, right? And so I'm going to put up above the circle the things that I want to feel. And if I'm feeling this way, then I believe that my life is amazing, right? So I can even put loved, fulfilled, whatever. But again, like I said, we are human beings. We are constantly feeling ebbs and flows, right? Every moment, we are generating different emotions based off of, our life, what we're thinking, and it just is constantly changing. And so we have to understand that. But if we want to feel fulfilled, if we want to feel love, if we want to feel happy, if we want to feel motivated, then here's the key. And you guys have heard us talk about 50-50 before here on the podcast. If you're wanting to feel happy, then you have to let in the joy or let in the sorrow. But I loved this way of picturing it. If we are wanting to feel this way, we are wanting to feel happy, then we also have to accept, acknowledge, become aware of the opposite, the other side, unhappy, unmotivated. I'm sure there's another word for it. Unloved, unfulfilled. Okay. Now notice it still is on the outside of my circle. So again, those are listening on the podcast, I encourage you guys to go onto the YouTube so you guys can see this. But if I'm in the middle and I've got a circle around me and I'm trying to get to fulfilled and loved and happy and motivated, which is above me, right? That's kind of what I'm aspiring to. That's what I want to have in more of my life. And I'm trying to not feel this other way. The only way that I can expand my circle that is surrounding me, right, is by bringing in and allowing both sides. Allowing myself to feel unwanted, unloved, unfulfilled, unmotivated. We are not meant to be one place. The more I can accept that I can feel unhappy and it's not a bad thing, and I don't need to resist it. I don't need to try and fix anybody outside of me. Then I build my capacity to feel happy. I build my capacity to also feel love. It's a both and approach. So when we are talking about wanting to be happy all the time, I think about, like, as a mom, I think we genuinely, and we have a good reason for it, we want our kids to be happy. But the more that we push them in that direction, we're actually telling them it's not a good thing for us to be unhappy, that it's a bad thing, that there's something wrong with you if you're not feeling happy. And then we create this narrative that it's wrong to have negative emotions. And then it just becomes this place that I think a lot of people are in, that they think there's something bad with feeling negative emotions. I think that's half the reason why we have so much depression and anxiety that's going on right now. We've got to learn that negative emotions, both sides, are just as valuable and just as wanted as the other. I don't want to feel happy all the time, you guys. I don't. When my kids are upset and they're having a hard time, I don't want to be happy about that. When my kids are going through a hard time for them, I don't want them to be happy about that. I may want them to feel courageous or motivated, but we've got to be careful with thinking that we're supposed to be this toxic positive all of the time. Again, I understand the narrative, but it's not realistic. It's not who we are. We're not human beings that are meant to feel positive all the time. We can't. And that's a thing that we can't aspire to. The people that claim that, they're not being real. They're actually shoving down. They're actually resisting the other side. We feel all of our emotions. We're meant to feel all of our emotions. We were given both sides. And so if you are wanting to feel happy, then you also have to get really good at feeling unhappy. Do you know the difference between those two? And actually, the more we get okay with feeling unhappy and living in our life, the better we are at being the person that we want to be. You guys, we are meant to take action, taking action when we are feeling anything. We sometimes are waiting around to feel okay. I'm like, no, stop waiting around to feel okay to take action. And here, I might ruffle some feathers here, but I see this narrative that's happening in the church a little bit with people that are saying like, well, I'm just feeling too anxious to bear my testimony, or I'm too anxious to bear, to give a talk, or, my kid is struggling so much. And again, I know there's a time and a place for this. I'm not saying this is all or nothing, but if we keep catering to our negative emotions and thinking we need to fix them before we take action, we are going to become a society that does nothing but feel our emotions. And we are seeing this. We are seeing this happen. We need a both and approach. Become aware of what you're feeling. Notice it. I'm not saying turn off the lights to this. No, I think emotional resiliency comes from awareness. But feel anxiety and show yourself that you're strong enough to go and do something anyways. Feel anxiety about giving a talk, but get up there and show yourself that you can survive that. It's an emotion. It is short-lived. The more we can show ourselves that we are in control of our emotions, the better off we're going to be. Live your life. Show yourself that you can feel your emotions and you can do it anyways. We don't need to keep waiting to feel happy all of the time. And I see this with my kids. They're like, you don't have to want to go to school. You don't have to want to do your chores, and you're going to do it anyways. We got to stop coddling ourselves for waiting around, being afraid of our emotions on the negative side, but then also waiting for the positive. It's a both and. Live the life that you want to have. If you are wanting to go get a job, stop waiting around for the motivation for it. Stop waiting for the confidence for it. Be unconfident, feel unconfident, and go do it anyways. If you're wanting to go on a mission and if you're like, I'm so scared, I'm so nervous, awesome. Show yourself that you can feel nervous and feel like you're inept. Is that a word? Feel that way and do it anyways. We got to stop leaning in and letting our emotions dictate what is possible for us. Our emotions, yes, they are messages, but a lot of them are not based in reality. They're there to try and protect us, just like our brain does, but it is just an emotion. Feel it, notice it, and I name it. I think it's really great for us to name it, but let's just feel our emotions. Say, I can feel unhappy and I can go to this party. Doesn't mean you react to it either. I think that's another part of this equation is so many times we think, well, if I'm going to feel unhappy, then everybody's going to be mad at me for feeling unhappy. I'm like, no, feel unhappy. And again, I'm not saying like you need to go be interactive and be inauthentic to yourself, but you also don't need to show it all of the time either. Like slamming doors, yelling at people, that's reacting to our emotions. So it's, again, a both and approach. You can feel unhappy and still show up as being the person that you want to be. And I think it's a practice. We have to practice doing this. Emotion work is powerful, but it's not where we have to live and try and feel through everything before we take action. I think sometimes we swing this pendulum back and forth so much, and it's just constantly, looking at it, evaluating, and bringing it back to this middle part. Like, okay, I'm feeling this way now, bringing it back to the middle. What do I want to do with this? And keep asking yourself that question. So this is short, this is sweet, but I just encourage you guys, let's take off this narrative. Stop trying to be happy all the time. Let's become aware of who we want to be and how we want to feel, but also keep showing up in our lives. Even until, right? It's a both and approach. If you want to feel unhappy, get really good at feeling unhappy. If you want to feel motivated, get really good at feeling unmotivated and showing yourself you'll still show up anyways. All right, you guys, if you have questions, please bring it to the Instagram, or if you have comments, I want to hear your side of this too. This is my opinion, but I'm very passionate about it, obviously. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Please share this with somebody that could benefit from this conversation. I think our kids need this. I think adults need this. We need to stop leaning into and letting our emotions dictate what's possible for us and start living and being the person that we want to be.